If there were a ranking for boasting, Bok Vu would undoubtedly reign supreme, as he borrowed fictitious documents to soothe the anxieties of his teammates. Captain Vo Ku sensed another troubling concern silently surfacing. Yet, Lin Wei recognized a mysterious and wondrous truth. He could not help but doubt how one could memorize information so rapidly. Bok Vu turned his gaze towards Lin Wei, confidently declaring, "Isn't it our elite team's hallmark to remember things with precision?" Lin Wei remained silent. But within her, thoughts erupted like a tempest. In truth, the entire group was engulfed in silence. Fortunately, they had stepped onto the third floor. The worries that had plagued them began to fade as they exited the elevator. Vo Ku swiftly shifted the topic, inquiring of Bok Vu if there were any noteworthy details in the documents. Bok Vu glanced around, once more sensing the bizarre. The lake bore no signs of disturbance. Nonetheless, the eyes of Prel must remain vigilant. He paused for a moment, then turned back to add, "A flawless formation cannot have blind spots, each person must hold their position firmly. My role is to be the eyes. So trust in me. In a collective where trust is paramount, this is essential." Bok Vu understood that Vo Ku and the others had reasons to doubt him. But to control Prel effectively, he needed to gradually lead them to rely on his insights. Prel was Bok Vu's greatest support. When wielded correctly, it would serve as a protective charm for the entire team. At that moment, and Tuong, at the rear of the formation, came to a halt. "So, you finally found me?" a soft voice echoed in her ears. She turned around, sensing something amiss. The voice was as if a long-lost sister was calling his name. "I'm here, sister. I miss you so much." The strange sound rang out once more, and Tuong suddenly felt herself being pulled into a hallucinatory whirlpool, a tide of confusion swelling within her. In her field of vision, the entire corridor of the third floor began to warp. Bok Vu and the others seemed to vanish into a fog. The strange sounds continued to resonate through the air. Dark tendrils swiftly crawled up in Tuong's body. She felt her consciousness beginning to dissipate. It felt as though her body was devoid of strength. Even the act of breathing was slipping from her grasp. Suddenly, an arm reached out from the shadows. "And Tuong, wake up, calm down, there is no danger around you." Vo Siu's voice was like a flame, dispelling the darkness and helping In Tuong escape her fears. "Captain, I heard a sound." "There is no sound at all. Take a deep breath and steady your emotions." Everyone prepared themselves to confront any sounds. Perhaps this was a form of psychological assault. Vo Ku quickly devised countermeasures, reminding the other teammates. Bai Wu stood firm, untouched by the chaos around him. He confirmed that the attack stemmed from a novel, even more intricate than the wicked schemes of the first floor. The third floor, with its prominent document room, was the only place of true value in Bai Wu's eyes. After the cryptic conversation with Yin Tuan came to an end, the group followed Bai Wu into the enigmatic room. Each document they turned over bore the indescribable pain of the entities subjected to experiments. Could it be that the novel had abused its own power? Millions of blood-soaked letters and films from that island were steeped in tragedy. Bai Wu glanced at the notes, reminding his teammates to tread carefully and not to recklessly flip through the pages. He advanced toward the most prominent bookshelf. Duan Zi observed Bai Wu's actions with a skeptical gaze. Did documents filled with only pain still hold any significance to read? Bai Wu asserted that this was an inseparable part of history. Through the records of these grotesque experiments, one could uncover terrifying aspects of wickedness. Lin Yu smirked and said, "If so, it's just Bai Wu tooting his own horn. Forever just a zero in the realm of reading." Bai Wu did not mention his sister, Li Wei Ling, nor did he explain why he lacked the capacity for empathy. He withdrew a file and ordered everyone to remain still, not to move. He would go buy 2 pounds of oranges for everyone to enjoy. April 7, 2025. The serum exchange experiment with Ding Ju faced severe issues. Dr. Liu and I decided to secretly seek help. Before I could finish reading the first section, Bai Wu found himself ensnared in a hallucination. Although the dean had forbidden consulting that person, we all understood that he possessed knowledge of the wicked research far beyond our own. However, before taking action, I must at least help Ding Ju become stronger, so he would look at me differently. Bai Wu's consciousness immediately drifted into the hospital. Within the body of a man lying motionless on the hospital bed, a doctor prepared a mysterious drug before him. Bai Wu realized he could not move, left only to endure as the doctor injected him. Yet, he could not feel the emotions of the man, only strange memories surged forth. He sensed the man's excruciating pain. Thus, the information received was indeed very limited. Carrying this thought, Bai Wu continued to sift through the documents. April 9, 2025. I yearned before meeting that person, wanting to apply a self-derived formula so that Ding Ju could gain the sense of smell of the third type of blood. Yet, that damned serum caused Ding Ju to develop scales. All my conclusions were erroneous. The transformation of wickedness adhered to no rules. Utterly uncontrollable. What power had ultimately changed them into this? This time, Bok Vu found himself enraged by the appearance of the scales, terrified to the point that he pulled them off piece by piece. He still could not control his body. So he tried to convince himself that in this land, people took pride in their transformations. Those without scales were unworthy of seeking love. This comforting feeling, as if it had fallen from the heavens, would surely drive others mad. Yet the reason they did not go insane was that the voice of Bok Vu, the master of the scales, could not be heard. Time passed, second by second, minute by minute, like a gentle breeze. Outside the illusion, Bok Vu appeared as a ghost, his lifeless eyes unmoving. People called out several times, but it seemed Bok Vu could not hear the sounds of the outside world. Lin Wei immediately turned to ask Vo Ku about the origins of Bok Vu. Apart from Vo Ku, all the other team members had gone straight to the tower right after encountering Bok Vu. Vo Ku had no intention of hiding anything. He remembered the survival bet of the former slaves. Right? He was that slave, the one who survived alone in the high temperatures for 2 hours and fought back against the noble assassin. Vong the Van could not help but widen his eyes in astonishment. To exhibit such behavior upon leaving the tower for the first time was truly unbelievable. Lin Wei also found it difficult to comprehend. The extreme area and the conditions of this hospital were entirely different. However, and Tuong provided an objective assessment. He suspected that Bok Vu was lacking certain emotions. While everyone passionately discussed, no one noticed that the black curtain surrounding Bok Vu suddenly began to churn. The books here, when opened and read, would allow one to feel the joy of the author as if living within each page. Unfortunately, those in this world had never experienced the film Sakura. As Bok Vu turned the pages, searching for clues, those walking along corridor 591 began to speculate about his origins. They guessed that Bok Vu was missing some emotions. Yet regarding the events that had transpired before, they remained hazy and confused. Even Vo Ku. He only knew that Bok Vu had been brought back by a certain noblewoman from a distant place. He could only be certain that this noblewoman came from the 3rd floor of the tower. As for matters related to nobility, betting, and the reasons for entrusting him with Bok Vu, Vo Ku could not find any clues. Vo Ku was particularly attentive to the abilities that Bok Vu had displayed earlier. He did not truly care about Bok Vu's origins. Everyone was now beginning to tease each other. After all, they had witnessed Bok Vu's capabilities throughout this journey. But there were a few who remained oblivious. After the black curtain around Bok Vu began to churn, in reality, he had awakened from the memories within the books. Yet he wisely maintained his previous form. His heartbeat and breath remained unchanged. Deep within his soul, Bai Wu was also eager to know if these people could be trusted. This was a supporting strike from the kingdom. He asked Wu Jiyu if that noblewoman wishes to take Bai Wu back. What must be done? Wu Jiyu immediately grew serious. He maintained his calm demeanor. My people can never be taken away. Hearing this, Bai Wu felt a wave of relief wash over him. Though this team of companions was somewhat peculiar, even monsters possessed their own unique charm. Did they not? Soon after, he began to regulate his breathing, allowing Wu Jiyu and the others to see that he was gradually escaping the grip of tension. In his memory, it took him a moment to close the documents. Pretending to be unaware, then asked Wu Jiyu how long he had been studying this material. The others gradually sensed something unusual about Bai Wu. Their eyes reflected a strange glimmer, as if the previous conversation had never occurred. They informed Bai Wu that 40 minutes had passed. Bai Wu affirmed that he had uncovered some clues, but they were not of significant importance. The key to unlocking the situation still lay just out of reach. While speaking, he retrieved another document from the bookshelf, asking Wu Jiyu and the others to wait a moment longer. He wished to see if there was anything intriguing in the following materials. On February 6, 2027, the reconstruction plan for Jia San's twisted arm was over halfway complete. The next step would be the testing phase. The beasts in the suburbs of the city were becoming increasingly abnormal. We must hasten our pace. If what that person said is true, there is only 1 year left before this world falls completely into the hands of the monsters. But what about the tower? He had never seen what he had alluded to. Bai Wu read the documents while beginning to piece together the clues. The documents mentioned the earliest time being 2023, certainly before the tower appeared. At that time, both inside and outside the city were rife with malice. And this hospital sought to research things that could be controlled, transformed in ways they could completely dominate. Next came a mysterious entity frequently referenced. This person. It seemed that many mysteries had been unraveled for those within the hospital. Was it not Elia's teacher? At that time, the tower had yet to manifest. But the master of the previous memories had mentioned him. So the current tower and the tower in memory could not be the same. Could they? The present tower could not have simply appeared out of nowhere. Where did this malevolence originate? How could present-day humans infiltrate the tower? All remained unexplored mysteries. As Bai Wu pondered this, preparing to shift to another document for further inquiry, he suddenly realized he could not escape the memories. In those memories, he felt an inability to move freely. Yet he could distinctly feel the pain within the memories alongside the transformations of the surrounding environment. I am being watched. At that moment, behind Bai Wu in the memories, a red figure emerged. Why is this happening? How could those without scales possibly find a girlfriend? The shadow of crimson posed a peculiar question. Bok Vu found himself at a loss for words. This was a phrase he had encountered in the dark memories of the past. Like a cruel jest, he felt no need to fear the appearance of the scales. Bok Vu's state of mind was akin to an unending nightmare. The painful memories compelled him to move forward, with no chance of retreat. Yet, he realized that the one approaching was the master of Hospital Number 9. Poor girl, you are lying. The girl's pure voice rang out, laced with deep resentment. It was nothing like the harsh, grating voice of Elijah. Why should I lie to you? I am Bok Vu. And who are you? Bok Vu steadied his mind, knowing he was not a significant figure like Dao Mandat, who could easily strike in a dream. You are lying. The tone of the poor girl held a hint of anger. Repeating her words without acknowledging Bok Vu's question, he noticed that she appeared as an innocent girl, yet within her lay a profound hatred. He understood that he must delve into her essence. To uncover the roots of the poor girl's fury, he needed to comprehend the pain she bore. She was a small girl, harboring resentment, often tormented by the world, ultimately transforming into a being filled with hatred. Perhaps she was the terrible enemy he had to confront. The documents in his room seemed to be the creations of the poor girl, meant to allow those who came after to feel the anguish endured by the experiments. With this thought, Bok Vu spoke again. I am not lying. Although it may not align with the doctor's expectations. Yet, when faced with danger, that outer shell could help him survive longer. In the past, he had been presented with a choice, between the file and the comb. He had chosen the latter. But in truth, that comb never existed, did it? The images from his memories suddenly became distorted, and the entire hospital trembled gently. Simultaneously, Bok Vu, the true form of Chan Liat-si, transformed from white smoke to black, then red, erupting once more. The passers-by also felt the tremors. They understood that Bok Vu had uncovered a clue. They hurriedly whispered to one another to cease their chatter and become vigilant. Why did you choose the comb? In that moment, the poor girl slowly advanced toward Bok Vu. As if with a mere intuition, she could unlock the door that imprisoned her. The file recorded those within the hospital. All of this would awaken dreadful memories for you. Bok Vu had lied. He understood that the key and the cage bore no connection, of course. It was not entirely an elimination method. The comb was not a tool of torture. Its material could not inflict harm. There lay an abundance of syringes, blind spot cameras fixed upon the walls, a cage, and chains that glistened ominously. The comb in this room seemed utterly out of place. Was it not? In comparison to the other objects, its presence was far too gentle. Perhaps it was never meant to exist in this chamber. Perhaps in your childhood days, there was one you cherished above all. That person would gently comb your hair, whisper sweet tales, and care for you with a devoted heart. When faced with the unavoidable, the human mind often retreats to cherished memories. So, when you encounter the final boss in the new village, what shall you do? Naturally, you must evade and bow low. Or perhaps you have already knelt. As Bok Vu found himself lost once more in memory, the image of the poor girl from Hospital Number 9 suddenly emerged, preventing his return. To save his own life, Bok Vu was compelled to voice a desperate plea. He understood that the comb symbolized the deep-seated turmoil within the heart of that unfortunate girl. Its presence in this hospital was a stark reminder of the profound obsession she harbored. He could only wonder what bizarre experiences she had endured 700 years prior. Yet from old documents, it was evident that her pain was unlike that of any human. Surely back then, you fell into despair. The poor girl listened intently to Bok Vu's analysis, clutching her garment tightly. At least his final words had touched her sensitive heart. Remembering the one who once combed your hair, But that person would never return. Here remained only monsters and humans even more ruthless than the beasts. You are lying. The poor girl echoed those words, though her tone had shifted palpably. Lying? Do you think I only wish to survive at this moment? My heart is always filled with fear of you. Everything you just said is a lie, isn't it? The way humans treat evil cannot possibly reflect who I am. Am I wrong? The poor girl did not respond, remaining silent. In her gaze, Bok Vu felt as though he could read her innermost thoughts. Indeed, he sensed no fear emanating from her. He did not wait to continue. As if conversing with himself, I do not fear you, nor do I hate you. I have come here merely to uncover some truths. Do you know that we, the humans, dwell within a tower? Beyond its walls, the world is harsh and unforgiving. Not long ago, I too was cast out from that tower. The temperature outside soared to 80 degrees. I nearly lost my life. Perhaps if I had perished, I would have become like you, of course. Bok Vu realized that he had never been so close to death before. Even in death, with a mindset that bore no negativity, he would simply become a piece of charred flesh. While the poor girl remained silent before Bok Vu, she slowly approached him. As the illusions began to fade, Bok Vu recognized her form, a girl, perhaps around 15 or 16 years old, with long hair cascading down and a red dress clinging to her petite frame. My name is Bok Vu. May I ask you a few questions? I am Hanan. The poor girl softly uttered her name but then fell silent, gazing at Bok Vu with curious eyes. At that moment, Bok Vu let out a sigh of relief. At the very least, this meant that Hanan would not immediately end my life. However, as I glanced at the wrinkles on Hanan's neck, another question arose in my mind. What do those wrinkles signify? I have seen others with similar wrinkles on the second floor. Really? You wish to know why I haven't killed him? You also want to learn what happened to the others? Bok Vu nodded. Filled with suspicion, she was clearly alluding to Elijah, and the others could not exclude the doctor and the mysterious experiments. You will feel fear. I will show you that what you perceive is merely an illusion. You are deceiving me. You are not afraid of me. Only because you have yet to see my true form. Hanan turned her back, her gaze sharp as a knife. Yet her expression remained cold like that of a neighbor girl. Bok Vu smiled faintly. If you are correct, then I would have no regrets. Bok Vu understood that the key still lay within Hanan's memories. In her mind, vivid images surged forth. This answer exceeded his expectations. Yet he refrained from trying to persuade her further. Dark memories, images within the mind transformed with the gentle movements of her right hand. Bok Vu felt a vague sensation, and suddenly, he found himself back in the room on the 11th floor of the first building. The syringes and chains remained intact, just as before. These cold objects exuded a fiery breath of horror. The only difference was that there were no files, keys, or combs on the table. Instead, a pristine-looking medical record lay before him. Clearly, returning here was no mere jest, but the resurrection of the painful memories that Hanan had conjured. At this moment, the hospital brimmed with mysteries. By now, Bok Vu had uncovered 4 riddles. It seemed that the true enigma lay hidden here. Bok Vu grasped the medical record, opening it without hesitation. From that moment, he heard countless cries of anguish, millions of shattered images flashing before his eyes. September 25th, Uncle Joe let out a heart-wrenching cry. I had pleaded with the doctor not to torment Uncle Joe. The doctor asked me who Uncle Joe was. In that moment, I realized that Uncle Joe meant nothing to them. To them, the name Uncle Joe had become a faded memory. Now, he was merely a relic. Uncle Joe had tugged at my shirt, pleading for help with a desperate gaze. He longs for me to take him away from this place. Though his voice grows weaker, I can still hear him clearly. I cannot bear to part from him. On September 27th, I received news that a patient on the 3rd floor of the second building had completely lost control. It seems he has transformed into a nightmare. A monster, you say? It turns out Uncle Joe no longer even carries the name Love. He is now called Evil. Now, a dark mark has appeared on my hand, and a small crack has formed on my forehead. The doctor cannot explain the cause. I do not know the reason either. I only feel the sorrow of Uncle Joe's departure. He can no longer tell me the story of his daughter. On October 4th, I met Shaoan again. He curled up in the corner of the dim room I had prepared for him. I once promised to create a room filled with colors for him. But now, everything seems to have faded. My world has been reduced to 3 colors, black, white, and red. Shaoan says his bones feel like sharp, cold, and cruel spikes, piercing through his very own body. Now, he has become a monster. I cannot bear the sight of Shaoan like this. I want to tell him not to worry, I will always protect you. On October 5th, I met Shaoan again. He came to say goodbye, pleading for me to take him away. His smile was like a light in the dark room. I thought, if I had a younger brother, he would surely resemble Xiaoan. My tears fell incessantly. The sorrow within me is truly unbearable. The doctor, noticing my instability, administered a sedative, yet, the sadness still flooded my heart. Because I had promised Xiaoan. That afternoon, I overheard the doctor's conversation. Ding 11 had become a demon, having completely lost his reason. The dark mark on my arm grew a little larger. Another crack appeared on my forehead. On October 14th, Gulu no longer wished to stay. Even when he met me, he could not utter a word. Each day, he battled against the evils from above. Every time I saw Gulu, I noticed new wounds on his body. Oh, poor Gulu, let me take you away. But perhaps, after that, we will never meet again. I will miss you dearly. On October 15th, the doctors began to panic. They could not understand why more and more subjects were suddenly losing their minds. Gulu, or Ja-er, has now become a demon. Though Gulu always feels useless, I know he is the strongest. He is the best among everyone on the second floor. I truly wish to have Gulu by my side. Can he appear in my dreams? The dark spots on my hands continue to spread. Half of my arm has turned black. My forehead aches so much, as if an eye is about to emerge. On October 19th, October 20th, October 22nd, I have become a monster. My eyes multiply, each time a patient in the psychiatric hospital is saved by him. His body sprouts another terrifying eye. On the 20th and 22nd of October, Bok Vu continued to delve into the pathological memories of Hong An. He could feel their weight. These memories unveiled a harrowing truth. All the experimental entities within this hospital were slowly succumbing to malevolence. And everything was tied to Hong An. Dreams served as a bridge between Hong An and the experimental beings. Each entity, before transforming into pure demons, had once known him. Perhaps Hong An had wielded his dream abilities to create a sanctuary for these entities. A spiritual paradise, the only refuge in the tragic existence of the experimental beings. Yet, at that time, Hong An's powers were still limited. The solace he offered was insufficient for the entity's survival. Pain and torment seemed endless. Most of the entities chose to surrender. By this point, Hong An would lead them away, absorbing their resentment, and must bear their agony. Yet this had caused the entities to lose their will entirely. Bok Vu suddenly realized that all the pathological records he had read before were mere fragments of memories. Hong An, the little wretch, was recalling his friends in this tragically poignant manner. And when Hong An's records reached the date of August 9 the following year, he had transformed into a monster with millions of eyes. Each grotesque eye was a vast reservoir of resentment. In his memories, there was no room for remorse. Yet it seemed he could go no further. The accumulated resentment and pain plunged him deeper into despair. Perhaps the one who defeated him was the cold, ruthless doctor, or it could be the despair of a savior who could not save himself. Or simply the last strands of hair falling away, a symbol of his impending collapse. Within him echoed a single thought: I am a monster rejected by all. On August 10th, I transformed into a beast. We are all monsters. Who created us, whoever it was, cannot escape. In my mind, millions of screams resounded. Let me seal off this space. Let me destroy them. On August 11th, Hong An sealed the entire hospital. Those outside could not enter, while those inside could not escape. The doctors inside cried out for help, while outside, chaos erupted like a hive of disturbed bees. The deaf boy and the chains could no longer restrain Hong An. He sought them out, eager to play. His greatest joy now was playing games with the doctors. After all, Hong An used to love playing hide and seek with his grandmother. Now, the doctors had vanished like phantoms. He no longer cared about rescuing others. Feeling an unusual synergy with the doctors for the first time. On August 15th, why did everyone who encountered me tremble, weep, and scream? What have I become? Moreover, when they weep, their bodies emit a strange fragrance. I yearn to engulf them. On August 16th, I met Ilya again. He is truly special, even though he loses to me every time. He never considers escaping from here. He doesn't want me to take him away. He is waiting for his teacher. He tells me that even in the harshest circumstances, he can endure, just to see his master again. I am genuinely envious of Ilya. I too wish for someone to wait for me outside this world. But only my grandmother loves me. Yet, I know she has long since departed. I hope Ilya can wait patiently. So I bestowed upon him a portion of my strength. But he truly resists. Perhaps because of me, his teacher no longer desires to see him. Forgive me, Ilya, forgive me. On August 20th, At this moment, in Han An's eyes, the scent emanating from the doctor became more intoxicating than ever. Out of despair, some were fading away, while others were becoming twisted and malevolent. Han An felt a fierce hunger, a need to consume them. In his mind, cries echoed, "Uncle Joe, Gulu Shaohan," but in the end, Han An could not act. He did not want anyone to face death. He only wished to play along with everyone. Yet, the fear had driven everyone away from Han An. Am I a hideous monster? Indeed, everyone despises me, a creature such as this. But I do not hate you. I only yearn to play with you. Now, Bai Vu understands why the Eye of Piriel called Han An, little dear. He has borne the resentment and suffering of all. The pain of solitude is powerful enough to turn an ordinary person ruthless, transforming the entire psychiatric hospital number 9 into a nightmarish place. What kind of terrifying creature will all these experiments create? Let us continue to unravel the next nodes. Han An has begun to descend into madness. But even in that panic, he retains the innocence of a child. Confronted with the doctors who once tortured him, Han An's indomitable will does not permit him to kill them. Everyone fears Han An. It is precisely everyone who has contributed to the creation of Han An as he is today. Hello, dear one, do you remember me? Bai Vu closed his eyes in contemplation, suddenly opening them wide as strange notes appeared in his vision. The notion of little dear bears an overwhelming pressure. If not careful, it could easily vanish. You should take this time to observe many more things. Now is the time to begin the countdown. Bai Vu had no time to ponder his current situation, his gaze inadvertently drifting toward Han An. The level of malice reached 9, forming a barrier, with spiritual power soaring to 12. A rare transformation becomes a shield, an aura of resentment, a manifestation of vengeance. Perfection morphs into a barrier, a metaphysical form of hatred. Congratulations, you have glimpsed the essence of the poor little thing. I cannot adequately explain to you the concept of a level 9 malice, especially when you find yourself in his crosshairs. Do not foolishly entertain the thought of defeating him. It is not that he lacks weaknesses, it's just that I am but a pitiful little pigeon. Bai Wu gazed through, the effect of the Piriel eye fading. The dialogue frames in his eyes instantly erased. Outside the tower, at Mental Hospital number 9, Building 3, 3rd floor, Bai Wu had fallen into a meditative state for a long time. Lam Vo Nhu looked at Bai Wu with concern, for the dangers outside the tower did not only stem from the demons. Goku glanced at his watch, reminding everyone to adjust their emotions, as they had been in the tower for a full 4 hours. Less than a minute to go. Captain, I can't see anything. At that moment, Thuong Tiu suddenly waved, exclaiming, the barriers outside had caused a blinding haze. Lam Vu Long suddenly knelt. Like the others, it was time. Those drowning in sorrow from Netis were weeping, the pain flowing like a torrential river. The barriers outside seemed to elevate negative thoughts even higher. Vong that felt his arm as if it were being torn apart, his strength gradually dissipating. The barriers outside had lessened their assault, while the legs of Ung Song felt as heavy as lead. He could not help but lift his feet repeatedly, struggling to adapt moment by moment. The barriers outside slowed down as if time had come to a standstill. 59 observed this scene, seeing nothing amiss. Outside in America, there were only 4 hours left. Some strange negative attributes would soon be added, for this world is hostile to humanity. However, the pain of Lam Vo Nhu and the confusion of Thuong Tiu primarily surged on the 3rd or 4th day. They had truly encountered misfortune. You two should return to the tower first, right now. You are merely a burden, Goku said calmly, unperturbed. What you endure from the barriers outside is termed malicious fervor, which can amplify the assault of the surrounding demons. It is not a significant issue. At least not for Goku. As a human, I sincerely apologize. Who would have thought that an old soul like me would have to leave before the newcomers? Perhaps I truly am ill-suited for this job. Lam Vo Nhu felt increasingly burdened. Thuong Tiu immediately comforted Lam Vo Nhu, initiating the return cycle. This had become familiar to everyone. No team could guarantee absolute safety. All members could go out together, yet still return together. Ung Song anxiously looked towards Bai Wu. Bai Wu stood there, and no one knew the pressure he was enduring. Rain began to fall again after the storm, as if to wash away the sorrows. Suddenly, all the files in the archive room were engulfed in a crimson mist, as if the malevolent spirits that once gathered in the second building had now returned to this hospital in the form of vengeful wrath. Goku felt a fierce hostility rising within him. Instinct told him that the enemy this time could be stronger than ever before. Each door here seemed to hold a tortured memory, chronicling the transformation of a neighboring girl into the unimaginable. As Bok Vu finished reading the medical records of Hong An, he had come to grasp the grim truth of this psychiatric hospital number 9. However, the ultimate trial for Hong An had only just begun. As the notes from the Pureal Eye were suppressed by Hong An, Bok Vu suddenly found himself plunged into a space filled with the doors of memories. Everything before his eyes became hazy, as if he had just drunk from an 8-year-old bottle of vodka. The barriers outside were descending into chaos. Unconsciously, Bok Vu thought of these words. He shook his head, his awareness remaining sharp. It was merely that everything in his line of sight was spinning. After regaining his composure, Bok Vu quickly discerned the pattern of the swirling chaos. His perception had tilted by 65 degrees. This was not an issue for Bok Vu. He simply needed to find the connection to the previous direction. His focus shifted back to unraveling. He had no other choice but to take a risk and delve into one of the entrances, seeking a way to dispel Hong An's animosity towards him. At the same moment, in the records room on the 3rd floor, 3 individuals had plunged into a fierce battle. The intense assault from Hong An had officially commenced. The resentments and intellect he had absorbed before had now transformed into a part of his power. Although Vong that was weakened by the barriers outside, his form remained robust and powerful. Ung Song, despite the barriers slowing his steps, steadfastly stood beside Bok Vu. There was no need to move. On the contrary, 59 transformed into a gleaming stream of light, gradually subduing the resisting forms. Seeing this, Vong that couldn't help but mock. It seems the malevolent fervor of the captain has turned into a hindrance for the team. Hearing this, 59 grew even more enthusiastic. In an instant, the records room had become utterly empty. Hoang Jia suddenly felt alarmed. Did the captain think he was intentionally making things difficult for him? Or was he also trapped like him? Goku didn't bother to glance at him, only instructing Vong Ti and Yin Shuang to protect Bok Vu with utmost care. No matter how powerful Goku was in the battle against vengeful spirits, countless other shadows would soon emerge. The convergence of Hong Am was clearly not something Ilya could inherit. Goku understood that Bok Vu had uncovered something profoundly significant. Now, the only thing he could do was trust in Bok Vu's capabilities. Moments later, Vong Ti noticed the demonic aura had visibly weakened, and Goku no longer needed to charge in alone. Slaughter and escape. It seems that Bai Wu over there has achieved success. 59's gaze lingered on Bai Wu, who stood still like a statue. Over there, Bai Wu turned back to that room. But inside, there was no longer the charming girl like the neighbor. Only a monster with countless eyes, filled with resentment and panic. Look, I'm not deceiving you. Even now, I don't hate you, nor do I fear you. Bai Wu drew out a comb, stepping closer to Hong Yin with each stride. I've only set foot in this world for a short time, and my view of demons is entirely different. The eyes in the darkness watch intently. The sounds of many voices blend together. You truly do not fear me? Bai Wu now could only strive to awaken the slumbering goodness deep within Hong Yin. He stared intently into the eyes filled with resentment, his expression calm and unyielding. What a pity, no one can comb your hair, nor can anyone take you away. But this world is not merely confined from the first building to the fourth. The human soul is not solely shaped by doctors and patients. Do you know why the people in the tower hate and fear demons? Because nothing proves that the human will can overpower the murderous desires of evil. Perhaps Ilya is a quintessential example. But he was led astray by nearly pathological mental assaults. And you, Hong Yin, are a completely different case. I cannot imagine the pain you endure as hundreds of resentments gather upon your body. But if you can still maintain your will, that proves you are still human. You are not a loathsome monster. Hong Yin's eyes slowly closed, as if commanded by some unseen force. That day, amidst the chaos of escaping the hospital, Bai Wu stood before him, with an unprecedented gentle expression. Do not let yourself become a monster. There are still many kind-hearted people out there whom you have yet to meet. But I cannot leave here. Hong Yin's voice became clear, like a bubbling stream, temporarily suppressing the resentment and desires that surged within. In Hong Yin's eyes, the person before him bore no signs of fear or despair. I will find a way to take you away, it's just not the right time yet. If you can trust me, please wait for me. Bai Wu gently consoled Hong Yin like a warm breeze. He is deceiving you, he wants to harm you. That voice still echoed in Hong Yin's ears, but now it had weakened considerably. The stars in his mind were gradually becoming strings of control, no longer led astray. And Bai Wu, after understanding Hong Yin's journey, he no longer needed to speak as one would to the living or the dead. Each of his words was sincere. Like breaths connecting two souls. In a certain aspect, you and I are alike. Both cast aside in this strange world. Everything here is a mystery. If every journey has its own mission, then unraveling the secrets within this tower is my mission. How did the demons in the tower come to be? How many floors does the tower have? What lies at its peak? Where do the origins of power and the chain of divine gifts come from? All of these are the purposes of this journey. When I discover the answers to these questions, I will take you with me. You will not be alone. From today, you have a friend ready to accompany you. He comes from the world beyond the 9th mental hospital. At this moment, Hong Am's eyes glimmered with a sparkling confusion. But more than that, there was hope directed towards the person before her. The kindness of Hong Am. This made it impossible for him to ignore the emotions of the other patients. Like a pit of resentment, he continuously absorbed the suffering of others, ultimately transforming all that pain into a monster. Yet deep down, he remained a small girl yearning for joy among everyone. Thank you, but please do not go to the 4th floor. You and your companions will be in great danger if you come near me. Hong Am's voice rang out clear, yet sadness still lingered. The next time you see me, I may not be as lucid. Therefore, you must become stronger. Grow a little, like those who are taller than me. The atmosphere suddenly shifted to humor. Like a joyful jest, Captain Goku faced yet another failure. At that moment, I will surely wake you up and play with you. No matter how much you transform. Initially, no one paid attention to this disaster. Until the demons began to invade each city. Everything around humanity became distorted and bizarre. To uncover their origins and weaknesses, countless organizations like the mental hospital came into existence. They collaborated to inject a vile serum into ordinary people, striving to create a demon that would not slaughter humanity. The girl Hong Am was merely an accident in the experiment. Like a lost angel, one cannot ignore the emotions from the other test subjects. Ultimately, they absorbed all the resentment and suffering, transforming into monsters. Yet deep within, he would forever remain the small girl yearning for goodness. 700 years later, Bok Vu understood his feelings, promising to awaken this girl with a pure soul. After a long time, Hong Am's emotions began to stabilize. Suddenly, he remembered something and spoke to Bok Vu. Before you leave, please stop by the 1st floor. 2 days ago, someone came here. He left something on the 1st floor. A surge of confusion welled up within Bok Vu. What exactly was unfolding? Could this become a part of the game? The last time on the 1st floor, there had indeed been mention of blood-red patterns on the walls. What did that person do? What feeling did he bring you? Bai Wu asked Hong Yin. Still feeling somewhat hazy inside. I only know that this thing resembles the device of return that you are holding. Hong Yin noticed that the spinning wheel was nothing unusual. But why would someone leave a return wheel in this place? That is truly a strange act. Bai Wu felt a thrill of excitement and urged Hong Yin to lead him to explore. Hong Yin agreed, and suddenly, the scenery before Bai Wu transformed. The gentle voice of 59 came from behind. You've been examining this file for quite a while now. The file room, once overflowing with documents, now shifted. The demons that 59 and a few others had battled, along with other things, had vanished. 59 sheathed his sword. Observing that Bai Wu had awakened, he knew this transformation was the result of Bai Wu's influence. I found the experimental file in the 4th building. The process was somewhat complicated, so it took a lot of time. It's best if you don't set foot on the 4th floor. Even the team leader might not be able to handle that experiment. Bai Wu warned. Goju was waiting for his answer. Ignoring the content and going straight to the conclusion, Goju remained silent, maintaining his calm demeanor. Wang Shi Yin looked at Wang Shi. And indeed, Wang Shi could not contain himself. Don't underestimate the team leader. He is sword and shield. Accompanying team leader Liu of the 13th unit in the investigation corps. There is no demon he cannot confront. Goju said helplessly. I just want to affirm that the 4th floor is far more dangerous than the previous 3 levels. The demons on the 4th floor are not like the small fish we have encountered before. Goju, uninterested in flattery, directly asked Bai Wu about his experiences in the file. It's just a memory. Let's walk and talk. Bai Wu turned his back and stepped towards the door. By the way, where are Lang Nok Nhu and Thuong Tu Nok? Bai Wu opened the door but found no sign of the two. Feeling strangely compelled to ask, Wang Shi replied, they had a bit of bad luck. The influence of negative energy was too great. The team leader sent them back before the tower. Bai Wu, what is your obstruction channel? Yin Shuang looked at Bai Wu with a curious gaze. He inquired about what truly piqued his interest. Bai Wu had a sense of what he was getting at. It seems I'm rather fortunate. My obstruction channel is chaos. Unlike anyone else's, It's chaotic to the point where one cannot walk normally. He felt a hint of curiosity. How long had Bai Wu needed to adapt to feel this comfortable? Is there still a need to adapt? Just a slight change in habit will suffice. Bai Wu walked ahead, casually responding. 59 chose silence, as did Wang Shi, leaving only Yin Shuang to chuckle softly. He redirected the conversation, asking Bai Wu where he would go next. To the relocation point to fetch something. The file mentioned that someone had been here before, leaving behind an object similar to a return wheel. Let's go check it out and then prepare to head back. Bai Wu didn't elaborate much for everyone, keeping it simple. Goku distinctly sensed the presence of a colossal monster lurking on the 4th floor, offering no opposition to Bok Vu's next plan. After all, he still had a few teammates whose powers were not yet sufficient. As everyone moved toward the 1st floor, Bok Vu began to recount the grim memories contained within the records he had endured. He did not hide anything, candidly revealing the strange phenomena that occurred before the tower's emergence, along with the dark truths surrounding the mental hospital of that year. Wang Shi furrowed his brow, curious as he asked, "A mental hospital researching demons? What does that mean? Aren't they trying to uncover their weaknesses? Perhaps this is a form of research. Who knows? There might be some other mysterious reason behind it." Bok Vu nodded, though uncertainty lingered in his mind. Yet, it seemed that some successful experiment had indeed taken place. What is the true meaning of this? Are they not trying to understand the weaknesses of the monsters? It could either be a form of study or perhaps a reason shrouded in mystery. Bok Vu had many uncertainties. But now, a successfully experimented entity existed. An experimental entity, achieving only half of its success. The complete success is Elia, whom we encountered in the 2nd building, while the half success is Han Am, who currently lurks within the 4th building. The others felt perplexed, realizing that the previous records were merely the creations of a malicious enemy. All of it was the work of Han Am, just a building apart, and yet the power felt so potent. How could one claim that Han Am was merely a half-finished product? Bok Vu pointed out that, although Elia could not be compared to Han Am, Elia possessed the ability to control her rage. Moreover, the compassion within Han Am had not been entirely extinguished. A demon is a demon, remember this. Hearing this, Goku felt that Bok Vu was countering the subjective will of Han Am. A demon can never become human. Their nature is to consume humans. Hence, no matter how pitiable they might be, no matter how kind and innocent they once were, as long as the malice in their bones remains unpurged, they will forever be enemies of humanity. The captain is right. I will engrave these words in my heart. Bok Vu, who had directly experienced those memories, unexpectedly agreed with Goku. In his eyes, if one could not rid themselves of the disgust when witnessing the weak, then no matter how much he accepted them, he would never regard those weak beings as his kin, especially not being able to erase the vigilance toward the demons themselves. At that moment, a red silhouette suddenly appeared before Bok Vu. He froze, instinctively halting his steps. What is happening? Goku found Bok Vu's actions strange, not understanding why he had suddenly stopped. Nothing, it seems only I can see her? Bok Vu quickly realized, it was a figure born from resentment. Her true form was perilous. I offer you 3 pieces of advice: kneel, kneel, or kneel. Emerging from the scene of memory, Pleral's eyes seemed to revive. Yet, Bok Vu sensed the anger radiating from the girl. Just a glimpse of her silhouette misled him. For it was the very words of Nuku that had caused his confusion. The worst among them must perish. Despite the girl's fury, she remained serious as she led the way. Soon, the 4 split into 2 groups, swiftly advancing to the 3rd floor of the 1st building. Han Am's delicate finger pointed towards a seemingly ordinary clinic. Without hesitation, Bok Vu stepped straight into the room. The moment he entered, he was met with a circular disc. The placement of this disc appeared rather casual, as if arranged for all to easily discover. Bok Vu silently mused, this is not the return disc I have seen before. 59 followed closely, observing the circular disc. The origins and workings of the return disc remained a mystery, yet it bore clear differences from the one before him. Bok Vu picked up the disc, while Pleral's eyes seemed to take notes. Both the pulling disc and the return disc were indescribable wonders, but the crafting of the pulling disc had long been lost to time. To put it succinctly, there are only 7 of these. They possess the ability to help one transcend the 3-day rule, taking you back to moments long past or guiding you to specific scenes. You might view it as an invitation from someone unknown. Bok Vu turned over the scattered medical records on the ground with palpable excitement. A blood-stained record may hold clearer answers. Upon seeing this, Bok Vu hurriedly picked up the most prominent medical record. only to toss it aside in disappointment. The content within was merely an ordinary invitation. Nothing remarkable. The owner of the disc had left him a chain of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. The hospital where the frail girl sought refuge was merely the beginning of this journey. This disc, akin to a portal, beckoned with promises of wonders yet to unfold. Bok Vu had never faltered when life grew intriguing, even if that experience was fraught with peril. The emergence of this object could not suppress the smile forming on his lips. In contrast, Vong Ti appeared increasingly perplexed. Were it not a return disc, I would cherish this as a memorable keepsake from our exploration. This item, I shall keep. Bok Vu's eyes sparkled with joy as he turned to propose to those around him. Vong Ti and Don Song showed little interest in the iron disc, while 59 seemed equally indifferent, quietly conceding that if there was nothing left to explore, they should return. 59 placed the disc on the table, nodded to Suong Trang, and quickly departed. His gaze drifted elsewhere. 59, Vong Song, and Vong could not see Hong Am, but Bok Vu did. I have departed, yet I will surely return. That was the position of the effigy of Hong Am. However, he made no sound, merely forming his